In the beginning, there was...
The Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the Bitchspot Report, the conservative atheist podcast that's not afraid to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Every week, your hosts, Cephas and Mike, will take on the latest religious and political news and examine the world around us from a distinctly conservative and skeptical perspective. Join us now for this episode of the Bitchspot Report. Welcome to the 43rd episode of the Bitchspot Report, the show where we don't just look at the absurdities of religion and the inanities of politics, we laugh at them too. We're your hosts, Cephas and Mike, and we're going to spend the next 90-ish minutes looking at religious craziness and political madness, all from a distinctly conservative atheist perspective. How's it going?
Life is good. Life is good. About one more half day of work, and I am on vacation, and I am just chomping at the bit to get out of here.
Yeah, I know how that goes. I have a little more than that, but, you know, once Friday rolls around, then I don't have to deal with anything for 2 weeks, and I'm happy with that. I'm not going to complain.
I'm not going to complain either.
All right. Well, I wanted to remind everybody, of course, about 2 weeks, we've got our New Year's resolutions coming up. We need to get as many people as possible recording a segment 30 to 60 seconds long, letting us know who you are, what you do, and what your New Year's resolution is. I've gotten a lot of people who've been acting like this is great, and I haven't gotten a single one come in yet. So please do not wait till the last minute. Send them in. I don't mind if you're atheist. I don't mind if you're Christian. I don't mind if you're anything. Just send them in, and we'll put every single one we get on the show, okay? Good. So anything else going on this week before we get into this all-news show?
I got nothing to bitch about. Nothing really exciting over the past week. I've been kind of busy. I'm going to be involved with another podcast that should be launching officially next year. So, I've been kind of busy with that. But other than that, everything's fine. Nothing to bitch about.
Well, where the hell is the fun in that? What are we going to do with nothing to bitch about?
Well, I can probably grab a newspaper here and I can find plenty to bitch about.
Newspaper? What's that?
Living in a hotel, they give you a free USA Today, so...
oh, joy.
I look at it and I'm like, oh, God. Well, if it isn't Obamacare, it's, what movie stars or whatever star doing something stupid, type of thing on the front cover. So, I kind of look at it, chuckle, and it's like, well, why do I bother?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
All right, well then, let's go ahead and get right on into the news. And now, the news.
And so, what better day than to talk about how in 11 states, you and I, with our taxpayer dollars, are supporting creationist curriculum, homeschool curriculum, with a creationist bent, which is going to kneecap, in my opinion, this country and these children, should they ever decide to go into the sciences or pretty much anything other than going to Liberty University, where you can get in without even having to take a GED. Eric Hovind is with us. He's the president of Creation Today. Eric, welcome to the program.
Hey, Tom. Thanks for having me back. I appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us. Why would anybody want to do this to their children? It seems like it borders on child abuse to be teaching children science in the context of religion, when religion and science are two completely different areas. Or for that matter, to be teaching religion as a statement of fact, when there are other religions that believe very different things, and there's no comparative religion really in this curriculum. Or to be teaching kids that basically Jesus was a political conservative in the modern mold, and that liberals are somehow evil people. I don't get it.
Well, obviously you and I come from opposing views then, because I would disagree strongly with some of the statements you made. Why should we let Christians teach their kids what they believe about creation and do that in science? We find creation scientists all over the United States. It hasn't kneecapped or handicapped them whatsoever.
Well, I'm sure they can find a few, billionaire right-wing Christians who want to fund them, particularly those who own big oil companies who want to fund them to promote a science that suggests that that, global warming isn't going to screw up the world. But, that's a very, very limited marketplace. And my primary objection is that in 11 states, our tax dollars are paying for this stuff.
Well, let me tell you what's even worse than that. In all 50 states, tax dollars are going to tell the kids that they are cousins of bananas and that they all evolved from rocks 3 billion years ago.
In a recent debate, Tom Hartman debated Eric Hovind about creationism in the classroom, saying that teaching creationism will, quote-unquote, kneecap these children should they ever decide to go into the sciences or pretty much anything other than Liberty University, where you can get in without even having to take a GED. Hovind responded that in all 50 states, tax dollars are going to tell the kids that they're cousins of bananas and that they all evolved from rocks. Seriously, dude, is this honestly what you think evolution is? It's no wonder your whole worldview is so fucked up.
Gotta love Mr. Hovind. Just the insanity that comes out of his mouth. It's gold. Man, how can you be that... What is it?
Well, the problem is he can't even say he's that ignorant because he's been corrected many, many, many times. He can't say he doesn't know. He just chooses to ignore it.
Yeah. Every time he opens his mouth, it's the same weird, absurd, what's the fallacy, where you reduce it down to the most absurd, explanation, is it ad absurdum?
Yeah, argumentum ad absurdum.
Yeah. I mean, that's what all this guy's doing. I mean, in a way he's right, but you know what? It's stupid. I mean, it's a stupid argument. And these creationists, they use that. I saw a little photo from the, creation, museum about how not to date fossils, and it had, you don't date them by the layers and, like all the science stuff. You're supposed to believe in the Bible. That's how you date fossils. And I'm like, it's so bad it hurts,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the problem is creationists completely misunderstand the purpose of education. It's not to pass along the beliefs of the parents. That's something that you can do at home or in the church. It's to pass along demonstrable facts about the world around us, and that includes evolution. If they want to teach creationism, cool. They can do it in church, they can do it at the home. But they just have to have as strong a scientific basis as evolution has if they want to do it in the schools. And they know they don't have that, so instead, it's a bunch of absurd claims that they can't back up, and then they have to claim that, oh no, they're trying to attack our beliefs. Well, yeah, because your beliefs are fucking stupid.
Yeah. I'm just amazed that they just don't get it. I mean, they'll never get it. That science is science. We teach science in science class. Creationism is not science. I mean, was it in this article, they're talking about there are creationist scientists. Well, yeah, and they may have gone through regular school and just decided to believe in, that creationism. But that doesn't change the fact that, evolution is based in fact, and it's taught in schools. I mean, you gotta deal with it. I mean, if you don't agree with it, again, that's fine. Go to Liberty University, and it just makes you sound even more stupid, I guess. I don't know. Every time I hear this stuff, when the Ray Comfort and the banana that fits perfectly in your hand, so it had to be created, whatever, that kind of crap that is supposed to be, in support of creationism. I'm like, no, you're just making shit up. That's not science. Science is not a democracy. You can't debate it or argue it. Evolution is evolution. You gotta, you got your basic tenets and formulas and whatever that goes behind this theory. You either gotta find some evidence to refute it or just have to, deal with it, and these people just won't. And, like I said, I just don't understand. I hate to think what is in his head, it's like, it's gotta be a real scary place.
Well, all he's got in his head are Bible verses because that's all he understands. Yeah. He doesn't care about anything else. These people are not rational. They've got blind faith in this ridiculous religious idea and these absurd gods, and absolutely anything that doesn't fit in with that just gets rejected out of hand, and they don't understand that what they're doing is stupid.
Yeah, especially with Hovind. I mean, it's the same crap.
Well, he's far from the only one.
I know. There's those that even try, with the intelligent design, and where they try to do a little science, but it didn't work. I mean, at least they're trying. This guy isn't even trying. It's like, the Bible says this, so that means this. And it just hurts.
Yeah, well, I mean, I really kind of look at these people and I wonder if they're not just trying to make money off the gullible. I'm wondering if they really buy into this shit. You know, I mean, maybe on some level they do, but these people are making money preaching to the choir. And I know Hovind, that's what he does full time. That's all that he does is this creationism shit. And you get like Matt Slick and Cy Ten Bruggencate and some of those presuppositionalists who have all quit their regular jobs and all they do is make money off the gullible. Maybe these people aren't serious. Maybe they really don't believe this crap. Maybe they're just going, well, hey, there's people out there who will send me money. Let's go ahead and say what they want us to say, and maybe they'll send us a bigger check.
You know what? We got a story along that lines coming at the end here, but I would almost agree with that. I mean, I find it hard to believe that they will, like from this article, he talks about, you know, that we came from rocks. Maybe the building blocks came from rocks, but we did not evolve from rocks.
Rocks do not have a genetic code. Sorry.
Right. So he's definitely pandering to a crowd, and apparently, I mean, if he writes books, does radio programs, he's making a good buck off of this. Because I know with like guys like Alex Jones, David Icke, these guys make about $2 million a year each. Their take-home pay is about $2 million a year.
Oh, sure.
So it's like, you know, there's money there to, you know, in craziness, you know.
Yeah, and not only can they sit down and say, send me money, but they've all got these little institutions, you know, the creation, the Answers in Genesis and all this stuff. Yeah. And those are all tax-free because they're religious, and the religious get away with anything. So yes, by all means, send us all your money that goes into this religious charity that he makes money off of. Yeah, sounds like a nice little scam, doesn't it?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to other craziness.
Yes.
You know, I think one of the most important civic lessons that I can communicate to you, and again, this is my own personal view. I'm not speaking for anybody else, but this is based on my research and my conviction about what the founders were seeking to do with the First Amendment. And realize the First Amendment has never been amended. You know, we've repealed other amendments, or we've altered them in some way, but we repealed the amendment about prohibition. 14 years later, we completely revoked that thing. We repealed it. It's out of here. It's history. It's in the archives. But we have never tampered with the First Amendment. That's never been touched. It's never been amended. It's never been revoked. It's never been repealed. It's never been tampered with. Its words have never been changed. So it means today exactly what it meant in 1789, which means that by the word religion in the First Amendment, the founders meant Christianity. You know, I don't know if you remember this, when I was a kid, like in grade school, you know, we'd ask people on the playground, what religion are you? I remember that was a question we would ask. What religion are you? That's the word we would use. What religion are you? And people would say, well, I'm a Baptist, or I'm a Catholic, or I'm a Methodist, or I'm a this, or I'm a that. It was always some response about what Christian church they went to. But that was the question we used. What religion are you? Because that was the only religion in town, was Christianity. At the time of the founding, 99.8% of the population of the colonies, what became the states, were Christians. The other 0.2% were Jews. I think there were something like 7 synagogues in the United States of America by 1795. That was it. There was almost no Jewish presence, no presence of Judaism on these shores at the time of the founding.
This is from the Raw Story. Right-wing radio host Brian Fisher says, First Amendment only protects Christians. Okay, because apparently since the Constitution was created by Christians in a Christian nation, it only applies to Christians. What is wrong with all this?
Well, I mean, it's just, he's completely ignorant of reality, but let's face it, look at these people. I mean, it's funny that the same crazy people come up over and over and over. I mean, we talk about people like Fisher and Klingenschmidt and Hovind just about every week anymore, because these people are just out there, like, spewing the crazy.
Definitely. Yeah. Reality and facts be damned. I mean, let's scream it out. This is a Christian nation. We're this. So, the laws only apply to Christians. I mean, I think that's kind of a scary thought. So if you're not Christian, that means these laws don't apply to me, so I can run around naked and rob stores and stuff. I mean,
yeah, that's not really how it works. But I mean, these guys are it proves they're just making bullshit up. I mean, Fisher claims that when the founding fathers were around 99.8, I think was the figure he said, of everybody in the nation was Christian. Where the fuck did you come up with that? He just made this shit up. He thought 99.8% of everybody was Christian and 0.2% were Jewish. So I guess there were no other religious people in this country at all. Bullshit.
Bullshit.
Complete bullshit. And it's also clear he's never read much about the founding fathers. Most of the founding fathers were deists. They were not Christians. In fact, most of them were extremely critical of Christianity, having fled Europe because Christianity was the official religion that was forced on everybody. It only takes looking at some of the quotes from the founding fathers to prove that this guy is out of his fucking skull.
Reading and facts don't work with these people. It gets in the way of the proselytizing to their masses.
Yeah, well, I mean, I grabbed a couple of quick quotes, some short ones, and there's tons and tons and tons of quotes out there. But Thomas Jefferson, Christianity is the most perverted system that ever shone on man. Does this sound like a Christian? No. I looked around for God's judgments, but I saw no signs of them. Ben Franklin. Is this a Christian? No. This would be the best of all possible worlds if there was no religion in it. John Adams. Yes, these are all adamant Christians who only want the laws to apply to Christians. It's just absurd.
Yeah. But again, like what we were saying before, he's got his crowd, he panders to them, they send him money to keep him going. Say the stupidest things you want. I mean, if it means filling up the bank accounts so he can afford his mansion wherever and, keep his ministries and his little side jobs going. They spew this stupidity out, but then there's these people, and I see it on the conspiracy side, where people are concerned about certain things in the world, and, they're worried about where their money's going. What's the economy doing? Is there a Illuminati trying to rule the world? So they get it from that side. Now, and then, of course, most of these conspiracy, who will buy into a conspiracy seem to be Christian. I mean, they seem to be Christian right-wing types. I mean, there's definitely left-wing conspiracists and people believe in left-wing conspiracies. They're getting from both sides, from the political side and their religious side, that they're being attacked. And it's being done by, these godless atheists and Muslims that are in the White House. And people buy into it. That's the sad thing, that this guy's blatantly lying to his people, the people who will listen to him. And I mean, it's almost like, what can you do unless you can somehow explain? Well, unfortunately, sometimes you can't explain to these people. But I don't know. It's just this insanity that this guy he doesn't get it. He doesn't understand the history, who these people were. Nobody really understands the founding fathers. Even the founding fathers didn't understand themselves sometimes. I mean, some of the stuff from Adams, it's like the various colonies were fighting amongst themselves what was going to be in the Constitution, what is this country going to be, so it's, you could take whatever little piece out of that and turn it into whatever you wanted to turn it into, and that's basically what this guy's doing,
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know. This guy is just a complete idiot, and it's clear that either he doesn't know or he doesn't care what actually happened at the founding of this country. That's pretty common on that side. All the people going, well, this is a Christian nation. No, it's not. Never has been, never will be, has never been intended that way. The founding fathers had a choice to put Christianity into the Constitution. They specifically did not do so. They avoided it on purpose. That's one thing these people just don't comprehend, is that the founding fathers considered it. They considered putting religion into the Constitution, and then they said, no, we're specifically not going to do this. He doesn't care. He's not interested.
Right.
And I think it's funny that he's whining about the Satanist monument thing.
Right.
He's going, they can't put up a monument because they're not a religion. But the Hindus have also expressed interest in putting up a monument, and they certainly are a religion. How is he going to justify that one? I don't know. He'll find some way. Maybe he'll just declare that only Christianity is a religion and nothing else is a religion, therefore Christianity gets to do whatever it wants to.
Well, they consider Catholicism a cult, so who knows what will come out of that one.
Yeah, it's really hard when it's just such absurd, abject stupidity on their part, and no matter how many times you correct them, they're not interested. They don't care. They're going to believe what they're going to believe, and reality doesn't enter into it, and you can't prove them wrong because they're not interested. All these quotes from the Founding Fathers, and there's tons of them. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons from every damn one of them. I've got them from Thomas Paine, James Madison. You've got them throughout the history of the country.
Right.
Lincoln was absolutely not a Christian. Washington was absolutely not a Christian. There's no question whatsoever in any of these people. And they're convinced that they must have been because the only people who could have created this country must have been Christians. Well, you guys are just fucking wrong. Come on.
I mean, I know there was I'm trying to remember if it was in the Federalist Papers or there was something, because I think one of the sticking points was the fact that, I think Maryland was a Catholic colony. Then you had the Protestants, you had the Quakers, you had all these different groups. I'm sure when they realize, hey, there's all these different denominations, the different beliefs. Again, and then the other big thing was that the Church of England was a taxing body. They were being taxed by the church in the colonies, and that all went right into the Church of England. I mean, there was so many reasons not to establish a religion in this country, or a national religion. It meant a tax that no American wanted to pay any more taxes than they had to, so they said that the state would not endorse any type of religion. The Constitution protects religion in a sense that there can't be one religion endorsed by the nation. It has to be individual. They can operate on their own. The U.S. cannot endorse any type of religion. And that was all worked out. And, I mean, that's basically what was going on. So it's like to claim even, it's a Christian, any type of Christianity. I don't know where he comes off, saying this is a Christian nation. I think maybe it's probably because maybe a bulk of them were based on the Christian Bible, but in various forms. But again, we got, the deists and so on, or those who didn't necessarily believe in a God or believed in, whatever the different, other forms. This stuff is just, it's just a scare tactic to this Christian majority that thinks they're being oppressed,
Yeah, well, I mean, there is no justification at all for declaring that the U.S. was ever a Christian nation. I mean, fucking Treaty of Tripoli, where it spells out specifically, the United States is not in any sense founded upon the Christian religion. You can't get much clearer than that.
Right.
But they don't care. They just ignore that part because most people don't know about that part. These people are just screwballs. I don't know what else to say about them.
I can't say anything more until later.
Yeah. Oh, we'll get to that.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and do a different story.
6-year-old Colorado boy who got suspended for kissing a girl in school on the hand. So did a zero-tolerance policy go too far? ABC's Clayton Sandell has the story.
6-year-old Hunter Yelton is a thief, the kind that steals kisses.
We're doing reading group, and I leaned over and kissed her on the hand.
But that kiss on the hand didn't just get him a slap on the wrist. It got him suspended for a day and a serious charge on his record.
I did something wrong. I feel sorry.
Hunter's mom met with the principal at his Canyon City, Colorado school and says she was told her first grader's behavior amounted to sexual harassment.
This is taking it to an extreme that doesn't need to be met with a 6-year-old. Now my son's asking questions. What is sex, Mommy? It should not ever be said sex in the sentence with a 6-year-old.
Hunter admits he's been in trouble before, suspended for roughhousing.
We have been working with him with the classroom disruption. He's been grounded for a while.
But sexual harassment?
How can you do this? How can you say this about my child? Remove sexual harassment. Remove it from his record.
Overnight, the school superintendent said, "Our schools do not suspend a student for just a kiss on the hand. We have intervened on behalf of a little girl who wants the unwelcome behavior to stop. Hunter is now back to school."
You know, we don't do enough political stories around here, so here's one I just had to do. In Colorado, schools administrators have charged a 6-year-old boy, Hunter Yelton, with sexual harassment after he kissed a girl in his class on the hand during a reading lesson. He was suspended for 2 days, and they made an entry into his permanent school record that he sexually harassed the girl. This is just where the insanity that is liberalism leads. What the fuck?
I'm never going to understand this. What is really going on in these schools? I mean, the zero tolerance crap. I mean, I guess what I really don't understand is why, you know, hey, I'm an old timer. When we were kids, we did a lot of stuff. I can remember, I mean, I had friends who were hunters, and they brought guns to school. They had them in their trucks, out in the parking lot, in the back. No hassles. We carried, you know, the big buck knives. You could do all sorts of stuff, as long as it wasn't, drugs or cigarettes. Everything was okay. Now you bring a picture or draw a picture of a gun, you can get suspended, or like in this case, I mean, this is an innocent 6-year-old. He's what, first grade kid, you know, being busted on sexual harassment. He probably doesn't even know what the word means.
Well, of course he doesn't. You know, this is just stupid. And I've done some stories recently about things like this where they're telling kids in kindergarten they're not allowed to touch each other and all this other bullshit. Well, that's part of their fucking development, people. That's normal. It's required for these kids to turn into decent human beings. This is normal. This is what kids should be doing. I mean, fuck, going by this, I should have been expelled in first grade. My parents tell me a story, and I don't remember anything from that far back, but they told me that in the back of class, when I was in first grade, when they were showing film strips and it was dark, I used to make out with this girl. All right, we were kissing in first grade, you know, in the back of the classroom. Now, granted, she did end up being my girlfriend for a long, long time, but, you know, the only thing the teacher said was they said I'm not paying attention to the film strips. They don't give a shit what I'm doing back there. There's nothing wrong with it. It's perfectly normal and natural. Nobody ever suggested I was sexually harassing her or that I should be suspended. What kind of a fucking idiot liberal is going to come up with this crap? What's wrong with you people?
This is kind of a long story. I'm trying to figure out how to cut it down a little bit, but certainly I want to say that I don't think it's really the school itself, the teacher, but when you start mixing psychology into it, I think that's what is going on here. There's a lot of, when they started bringing psychology into the schools to, I don't know if it was to get kids to learn better, quicker, faster, easier, whatever. A lot of shit hit the fan with it. And, I was reading, there's this book called The Magic Feather. It's about special education in Illinois. And I actually I didn't realize it at the time, but apparently I experienced this stuff. And, when you're in first grade and they look at the way you color, you know, when you're doing a coloring book, if you color outside the lines, that meant you had a learning disability, according to the psychologists. And I think that's what grouped me in with the special ed kids, because I kept screwing up their theories, I guess, or their hypotheses, because I mean, I think I went through this period where I liked to and I think it had to do with there was these old Warner Brother cartoons where they did these kind of surreal backgrounds, and I thought that's so cool. So I was trying to do that color in my coloring book. And apparently that was a sign that I had a learning disability. But when they kept testing me, I would pass with, you know, ingenious level. They were trying, you know, it totally blew their minds that, you know, hey, wait a minute, this kid wouldn't color in the lines, but he tests genius, you know, and they couldn't figure out what was going on. You know, it's like, why not ask the kid, you know, or realize I was trying to be creative. Like I said, I remember these cartoons that had where they did the backgrounds. I wanted to try to create those backgrounds because they were so cool. I thought they were so neat. And, but I think there's like this when they started inserting psychology into the schools, I think that's where we're starting to get this stuff like, where we got to start teaching sex ed to kindergartners and, all that kind of stuff, and, really pretty much fucking the schools up.
Well, yeah.
So I think that's probably more the problem and I don't know what they're doing, really. I mean, I don't understand what's the logic in this case, calling it sexual harassment. Is this some kind of a weird, I don't know, if somewhere there was a study that boys that kiss girls in first grade turn into sex offenders or...
Well, yeah, but they think everybody's a sex offender. Come on. These are the fucking liberals. These are people who are trying to turn these kids into good little ass-kissing liberals. That's all they're trying to do. These are fucking feminists, and they're out there going, well, all men are sex offenders. They're all potential rapists. Even in first grade, nobody should ever touch anybody. Nobody should ever be seen as a sexual object. Nobody should ever be seen as anything. Fuck these people.
Well, definitely. I mean, I think that's what it's come down to, where the psychology has been so subverted. And this is mostly anecdotal anyhow, but it's like I just keep seeing these weird, how do you get from like this story to something worse, or what is really wrong, and what is this? I'm really not getting it. And is there some reason, or is this just some personal agenda amongst feminist psychologists? I mean, there was that McMartin case in California, where it turned out that the psychologists who were interviewing these kids were suggesting things to the kids to make it sound like they were being, molested. And it was like, look at the damage that did. This family went through hell, lost their business. They became pariahs in their hometown, all that kind of stuff, over some crazy ass bitch who, had some sort of weird issue with, whatever. It's like, I don't know if it's necessarily even a liberal thing. I think it's more of a, like one big experiment, and they're trying to figure out, well, maybe kind of roughly figured out that this action like this kid did might lead to this, so they're going to, because we'll see in Illinois, the special education was all, is actually meant more money to the school district. That's what it came down to. So I'm wondering if this is some part of a beginning to torment this kid, or put this kid through special programs that would mean the state would pay extra to teach this kid. I mean, that could very well be it. It could be all money driven by the school districts. So I don't know. It's hard to say what really is going on here. I mean, it definitely reeks of, this feminism, the feminist men are bad attitude. I'm not picking on feminism as in general, but it's just there is that group where men are bad, they do bad things. So let's label them automatic, anytime they do something like this, it's harassment, it's sexual harassment, that there's that bunch.
It's social engineering. That's what it all is. They're trying to turn people into good little liberals who will vote for their political parties. That's what it is. And, if it had been a little girl who kissed a boy, they wouldn't have said a damn thing. They would have said she's sexually empowered and whatever.
Right.
But, I mean, these people are all just so completely fucked up. I don't understand what the fuck is wrong with liberals. I don't. I don't understand what's wrong with neocons either. But there's something wrong in the wiring of liberals, where they come up with this stupid social engineering bullshit, where they're just trying to make people who they need the government's help at every turn, and everybody acts a certain way and everybody does a certain way, and I don't get it. I just don't get these morons. I can't think of another way to say it. I just can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to lean on the psychology. I know it's some of the stuff I've heard about just psychology. I mean, it's such a, it's almost not treated like a science.
It's not a science. It's not a science. There is no science in psychology. None.
There's those who think there is, but
there's those who are fucking stupid. That's like saying that priests are practicing a science. They're not. There's no science in this at all.
Well, I mean, they study, they do all the studying and all this stuff. And like I said, I mean.
Yeah, but the philosophers study too, and that's not a science. That's a bunch of mental masturbation. That's all this shit is.
Yeah. Well, let's see, it's like, I mean, they try to treat it as science. I know it isn't. Pretty much everyone who's even philosophers. I mean, I've heard Massimo Pigalucci say psychology is not a science. I mean, he's a philosopher, and I think he's a biologist too, but, he knows that psychology is not a science. And I've heard that so many times, but people seem to think it's a science and like to have used it because they've also, I mean, this is where the, like the intelligent tests come out of. This is where a lot of the stuff, and a lot of these things, basically, you fail this test, you don't do good on that test, these fuck you up for life. And this is all coming out of psychology. I mean, there's more to, this is just one part of this idea. I mean, I don't know how social workers work into this thing, but I'm sure they're heavily into psychology or run through psychology, the psychology of stuff. And, I mean, even on that front, you hear these horror stories. I don't know much about it. I mean, I don't know how many people go through the social services stuff here in the United States. So, but you get like one or two and you get the failures. You always see the failures, that type of thing. I'm thinking there's this heavily reliance on psychology because they believe it is some kind of science. It's some kind of a knowledge. It's it is an understanding of how people operate, and that whatever theories or whatever, there's a theory that's driving, like what you see here in this story, same thing that's driving other things that are happening in our schools that, in effect, is really all we're doing is fucking these kids up. I mean, it's bad enough that we got creationists who don't want to teach science, history in their schools, but now you got psychologists who think that because of this behavior, people can't think and learn science or history or anything like that. It's like this double whammy. I mean, I can almost say that, these psychologists are, especially these who work with schools and who are involved with the schools and school districts and stuff like that, are no worse than the creationists.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's face it. This kind of crap is the liberal version of creationism. That's what it is. It's a bunch of people that are out there trying to engineer society to reflect their values and their beliefs. Same shit, different group. I don't think that the liberals are any better than the creationists. Like I said, I think that the liberals are fucked up. I think the wingnut neocons are fucked up. Different reasons, same result. They're out there trying to push ignorance, and that's kind of the way that it runs.
Right. Oh, yeah.
All right, well, why don't you go ahead and do your next story?
So, from Right Wing Watch, conservative Catholic group ties Illinois tornadoes to gay marriage. All right, my home state, go Illinois. The American Needs Fatima, a project of right-wing American Society for the Defense of Tradition, Family, and Property, is linking the tornadoes that hit Illinois this weekend, that was a few weekends ago, to the state's recent approval of marriage equality bill. Robert Ritchie, the group's executive director, is just asking the question, do you think the massive Illinois tornadoes are linked to the passing of the same-sex marriage bill? Okay. Nutcases.
Well, of course they're nutcases. And we talk about this all the time. They're all nutcases.
I mean, they blame the hurricanes, they blame the tornadoes in Oklahoma, they blame anytime that there's something gay, there's some type of natural disaster, they try to pin it on that. I don't get it. I don't want to get it. These people are just stupid. I thought Illinois was maybe a little bit more sensible, but apparently not. And if anybody in Illinois is believing this, I'm glad I'm in Michigan right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's be honest, it's not just the gay. There's something that they don't like is going on, so therefore we're going to blame any natural disaster that conveniently happens to happen while this is going on. We're just going to claim that that's the problem. Well, fuck, why don't atheist groups start blaming natural disasters on pedophile priests? You think that's going to work? We need to get on fucking Fox News. Well, you wouldn't get on Fox News, but, you need to get on the news and be going, all these natural disasters, they're not the fault of the gays. They're the fault of the Catholics. The Catholics are to blame. Or, the fundamentalists are to blame. Or whatever. And see how far this one runs. I think that would be frickin' hysterical.
Oh, yeah. Anything like that is, I don't know why they do it. I do know why they do it. It's, again, sensationalism and all the terrible things. I've lived in Illinois most of my life. I think all my life. Every spring, every fall, we get some pretty nasty storms come through. I am sure that if you're in Illinois, if you're from Plainfield, there was a big tornado there. That happened in the fall. I believe it was the fall. Hopefully it was the fall. Maybe it was the spring. But anyhow, we've seen some pretty nasty stuff come through Illinois. And if you're all of a sudden deciding, but this could be God's wrath, if you're like that, get out of the state. I don't want you in my state. You're too stupid.
I don't want you on this planet. Shoot yourself in the head. If you're that damn dumb, get out of the gene pool.
Yeah, because, every spring, every fall, there's always we get really good nasty storms. If you're going to believe that this is just is special, get the fuck out. Maybe we can find a Soyuz rocket. We can load you up in and shoot you into the moon. But we don't.
The moon's too close. Shoot them into the sun.
Yeah. We'll send them to the dark side so they don't burn up. And they'll believe it too.
They will, unfortunately. That's just.
Yeah, because I know that. At least out of the friends that I have, they haven't repeated this story. So I guess. But if there's anybody in Illinois who believes this, get out. Iowa would love you. They're a little bit nuts over there. Missouri, maybe southwestern Missouri, that's a good spot. If you can't move off the planet, move to these places. They'd love you. And of course, there's Kentucky and Tennessee. You can move closer to the Creationist Museum, so whatever. But anybody who would believe this, you don't belong.
Yeah, I don't get people like this, but it happens. And let's be honest, it's good advertising because the second these people start jumping up and down and saying the gays are responsible, every damn news organization out there throws a camera on them. Right. If they'd stop doing that, these people would never open their mouths. It's just advertising. That's all they're doing. They're trying to get more gullible people to join their churches because lots of people are leaving their churches.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I'm trying to follow Illinois because it used to be pretty sensible, other than maybe Chicago and the Catholics and the pedophiles there. Illinois seems to be relatively sensible, but I'm kind of worried that we may be going off the end. I'm hoping we don't see any more, but I'm not going to hold my breath.
The next time you have a tornado, there'll be somebody out there going, "It's the gays' fault." It doesn't matter, and it doesn't even matter if it's in Illinois. Crazies in California and the crazies in Maine are going to be going, "Look, it's the gays' fault."
Yeah, and I would think, hey, since I'm doing a podcast, an atheist podcast, I would think that there'd be a tornado that would hit me. I was right on the edge. I watched it go by, but it didn't even muss up the yard too much. It did clear the leaves out of the yard, which was pretty cool. So thank you, God, if you really did do this for cleaning my yard up. But other than that, it's like, even on top of it, if I remember the track right, it went through a fairly religious, they were going after the religious people. God was wiping his own people out. So,
like I said, they're going after the pedophile priests.
Yeah. Why? Why do they do this? I'd like to expound more on that on my last article.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's go ahead and do a different one. See, today is just pissing the crap out of me with all these stories because it's just religious stupid compounded upon religious stupid. And here's another one.
Well, it wouldn't be Christmas without someone complaining about Christ. The latest attack right here in New York City, where atheists put up this billboard. It asks, quote, "Who needs Christ during Christmas? Nobody." End quote. My next guest, an advocate for Christianity, obviously disagrees, so he's giving them a taste of their own medicine. Ken Ham is the president and founder of Answers in Genesis. Good morning, Ken. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, good morning and Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas is right. So you heard about this billboard up in New York City. What was your reaction to that?
Well, you know, the atheists, who are a very small minority in the population, have been trying to impose their religion of atheism on the culture now for quite a while, you know, getting Bible, prayer out of schools, Christian symbols out of public places, and they've conducted a very aggressive billboard campaign the last couple of years. I mean, last year, there in Times Square, they had a billboard that said, "Keep the merry, Santa Claus, dump the myth," and that was Jesus. And because they're becoming so aggressive, I just feel it's really time that Christians really stood up in this culture to take on the atheists and to proclaim their message of hope, because we have a real message of hope. I mean, what's the atheist message? There is no God. When you die, that's the end of you. So everything's just meaningless and hopelessness. I mean, let them promote their own message and their message of hopelessness. But what they do is they attack Christianity and they attack the Lord Jesus Christ.
Fox and Friends host Elizabeth Hasselbeck told creationist Ken Ham that it wouldn't be Christmas without someone complaining about Christ. Well, then why the fuck do you guys keep doing it? The only ones complaining about Christ are you fuckers. In a recent interview, Ham proved he hasn't got a clue by saying that atheism is a religion and that atheists are just upset because they're just a tiny minority. That's why they keep attacking Christianity. Too bad he doesn't understand that atheism is the fastest growing demographic and that people are abandoning Christianity and other religions in droves. Fuck these people.
Well, fuck Fox News. I mean, I can't think of anything good. You know, you had that Megan Fox or Megan whatever. Fuck. You know, Jesus is white. Santa Claus is white. Yeah. You know that. You know that's like read The Fox Effect. It's an excellent book. It goes into basically Fox is not a news station. It's an onion for neoconservatives. You know, it's like the right wing. You know, it's like I really don't rank Fox News, at least the the national, the cable part, as anything. There's nothing credible on it. And pretty much everything, it's either made up, it's been manipulated enough, or engineered to get this effect out of their listeners, or out of their viewers, and definitely it's been a Republican and religious outlet. And I can't think of anything good, anything Fox related. When I look at a conspiracy, I try to, when I go looking at news articles, I usually try to rank, the news source. I've got this mental ranking, and Fox I will always treat it as the least reliable story out of any that I would research, because they make shit up. And here we are, we got, this Hasselbeck, Ken Ham. I mean, come on. It's just like a steamy pile of bullshit.
Oh yeah, but it's not just Fox. That's the problem. We talked about this a couple weeks ago, where the mainstream media, and Fox is part of the mainstream media, they're not about telling the news. They're not about informing people. They're about social engineering. They're about appealing to an audience. Fox does it for the right wing. MSNBC does it for the left wing. Same shit, different channels. Right. Neither one is at all credible. You're right that Fox is going after the religious Republicans. Well, MSNBC is going after the liberal Democrats. That's their audience. They're saying things specifically to make their audience happy. That's all they care about. They don't give a crap if the news that they're telling is true or false. They don't give crap one.
Well, actually, I would even go a step further. They're going to they're telling their listeners what they want to hear, so they can stick around, watch the commercials, and buy the products that they're pushing.
Well, of course.
And that's the ultimate goal. It has nothing to do with what they say or what they do. It's about getting people, getting the sponsors to sponsor them so they can keep doing what they're doing. I mean, that's what news has come down to. I mean, I know we're alternative media, but even the alternative media.
We're not media, because media these days means bullshit trying to buy an audience. We're actually telling the fucking truth. We're actually supporting reality. We actually care if what comes out of our mouths is actually factually true. These people don't care at all.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's true. I mean, that's a true statement, but it's like, I mean, we are in the alternative media area because we look at the mainstream and say, this is bullshit. What we're seeing, your local stations, if it bleeds, it leads stories. And then you go into the fluffy Hollywood scene, and then, a little sports, a little weather, traffic report, do it over, then next half hour, do it over again. That's, local news. The national news, again, is someone dying somewhere in the world, United States. Again, the fluffy Hollywood story, little weather, little sports, and repeat every hour. What we're doing is we're looking at these stories. I mean, I know, at least for me, and I'm sure we look at these stories and we say, this is bullshit, or we look past what we're being told and we understand that, Fox is full of shit. MSNBC is full of shit.
They're all full of shit.
And we call it on it. We understand a part of this. I don't want to compare myself to an Alex Jones, who is also in alternative media, but he, a lot of his stuff is bullshit. It's Fox on steroids, that's his thing. Everything's a conspiracy with him. So we try to cut through this shit and, say it like it is. If there's a war on Christianity, it's like, I don't think so. I mean, we're just pointing out the hypocrisy within religion. That's all we're doing,
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is Alex Jones is doing exactly the same thing they're doing. He's got an agenda, and he is out there doing whatever it is. He'll tell whatever lie he has to tell. He'll bullshit whatever he has to bullshit to push his agenda. Fox News, it's an agenda. MSNBC, it's an agenda. I've got no fucking agenda. My agenda is reality. All right? I don't give a crap what's going on. I just want to know the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and that's the end of it. And very few people in the media actually operate that way. And it's a problem. I don't understand why people have to put their own particular ideological spin on things. That's...
Well, again, it's to sell products. People are people. Some people, they believe in this God or that God, or they don't believe in God. They vote Republican, Democrat, Independent, Green, Communist, whatever. There's pro-capitalist, anti-capitalist, and they will gravitate to whatever interests them. And then once you get them in there, then you bombard them with commercials and stuff like that. I mean, look at everything. I mean, you watch a baseball game. The whole field is covered with ads for whatever. I mean, you even get the rotating ad behind the plate. NASCAR, everything's sponsored. I mean, the cars are sponsored. It's all commercial. It seems like just about everything. There's some kind of advertisement thrown around somewhere. If it's like a concert. I mean, I think Toby Keith, they had like such and such sponsoring such and such, sponsoring such and such, sponsoring Toby Keith. It's like, you got sponsors sponsoring sponsors to sponsor the act. It's all about get your attention, draw them in with whatever you want, whatever craziness. And then when you got them, then you blast a bunch of ads in front of them. What I would really like to try doing one of these days is pick out a few representative shows like a news, Fox News or MSNBC, and note who's sponsoring each of those spots. I did that with Alex Jones. Who's sponsoring and what's sponsoring Alex Jones. And I found, 50% of the ads are for Alex Jones. 20% is for stuff that Alex Jones sells. Then you get the alternative medicines, the financial advice, gold, all that kind of stuff. And, there's in some cases, then they got the gun rights and gun training, gun stuff and, survival gear, that type of thing. So I bet you if you look at Fox, you're going to see, certain products being advertised there that won't be advertised on MSNBC because, there's just two different demographics. So you're going to see, I'm just taking a guess, you might see more Ford ads and Chevy ads on Fox versus maybe a lot of Buick and Cadillac and whatever on MSNBC.
You'll be seeing ads for Priuses.
And yeah, that'd be a good one. A lot of hybrids, a lot of smart cars, stuff like that. Yeah, I can, but that, and
Apple computers.
Yeah. So it's, that's what it's coming down to. I don't know. It just, it did floor me how the Fox Effect book really kind of, I suspected it that Fox was not as honest with its news, but this really blows it out and say, these guys were making shit up. Literally.
But they all are. You know, the only reason Fox gets so much attention in the so-called atheist community is because most atheists are liberals, and they're completely blinded to the same shit happening in the news source of their choice.
Right.
The same thing is true on the other side. If you listen to the Rush Limbaughs and that kind of group, they're the ones always pointing to MSNBC for doing the same damn thing. And they're defending Fox. Both sides are pointing out the same kind of hypocrisy on the other side, and neither side can understand that it's going on. It's just absurd.
Oh yeah, it's insane. I mean, it is really insane, and unless you step back and look at it, you know, try to look at it objectively, you'll see the glaring differences. I mean, we're not talking just subtle differences. We're talking glaring differences between these, you know, all the different news outlets.
Yeah. I mean, really, the only good news stations out there are the ones that are not run by advertising, things like BBC News. I don't know if Al Jazeera is funded by advertising, but, you know, I've had them put forward as somebody who's actually pretty good. But anything that comes out of the U.S. is shit.
Right.
It's really, because it's all run by advertising, and it's preaching to a choir so that they'll stick around and buy things from the advertisers.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I definitely agree with that. And, you know, even on top of it, I think there was one time, and I don't speak Spanish, but I just happened to have Telemundo on one time, and there was like some really neat stuff that was going on. I mean, I think it was a volcano in Mexico, actually, you know, and, I go, oh, wow, that's pretty serious looking. So I went to the U.S. stations, you know, trying to find out, maybe get an English version of this. And this was before internet, where I could do any searching or anything like that. Nothing. I'm like, you've got a large volcano going off in Mexico. Of course, I don't know where, if there was any real damage going on or anything like that. Probably not, but it didn't make the U.S. news, you know. So it's like, there's so much stuff that's going on that would be interesting, but it won't make it because it isn't bleeding, it isn't burning down, it isn't, you know, whatever, you know.
Well, it's burning down, but it's just not burning down anywhere that anybody cares about.
Right. It's burning down brown people's houses, not white people's houses.
Yeah, we can't have that.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole media situation in this country is just fucked beyond belief, and both sides are doing the same thing and pointing fingers at the other side. I just think that's hysterical.
Yeah.
All right, well, why don't you go ahead and take your last story?
I'm going to take my last story, and this might be a little bit an up story. This is from a Friendly Atheist blog. Actually, it's referring to a regular story. Harold Camping, preacher who wrongly predicted Judgment Day, is dead.
Bet you didn't see that one coming.
I didn't see it, yeah. Let's see, say something nice first before we rip into this guy, because
there's nothing nice to say.
I mean, I really do feel sorry for the guy, though. I mean,
I don't.
I feel sorry because his life was just so deluded and so messed up. And you know what? When you start looking at the numbers of the damage this guy did, you know, it just floors me. I mean, this guy collected $80 million in donations to run a $50 million campaign to alert the world that the world was coming to an end. And he sets the date, you know, the May 21st date, which never happened. Well, I guess it was an even earlier date, in
there are several.
Yeah, like 89, but there was the May 21st, and then there's the
October 24th or whatever it was, or something around there.
Right. So this guy took, $80 million in donations, did a $50 million campaign to alert the world that the world was coming to an end. People had sent their life savings into this guy, and nothing happens. So what happens? And this is great. All his donations began to dry up. I mean, even the stuff he was getting before dried up. He ended up having to sell 15 of his radio stations to stay above water. I mean, I wish something like this would have happened to, like, what's his name? Not Falwell. Oral Roberts, where he was called home unless everyone sends him money. And unfortunately, everyone sent him, sent all the money and said that's why he lived. But I mean, this guy not only destroyed lives, I mean, innocent, I mean, not really innocent, but definitely, the gullible. He preyed upon the gullible, just sending their life savings because they thought the world was coming to an end, and to save those who needed to be saved, and destroy their lives. His life ends up being destroyed in the aftermath, and it's just, really, it is a sad story that this guy he was so into this story, or this belief that the world was coming to an end on these days, that ended up ruining himself, and then, having to die after falling, apparently he falls and injury got infected, and that's what killed him. I wonder if that's really true. He may have been another stroke. I think he already had 2 strokes before all this was going on. He was not doing too good.
Well, at his age, people die. That's just the way it goes. So,
right.
He was going to go sooner or later. It doesn't really matter what happened.
Yeah.
But, my whole thing is, he became pretty irrelevant after his last prediction failed. If he was ever really relevant at all. But there's just so many of these things that come up. Every single one is wrong. Why does anybody take any of these predictions seriously anymore? I came up with a short list, and this is a very, very short list, because there are well over 100 past predictions that are all wrong throughout the last couple thousand years. 500 CE. 3 Christian apologists predicted the return of Jesus based on the dimension of Noah's Ark. Holy fuck. Anybody believe that? Lots of people did. 1000 CE. Pope Sylvester predicted the end of the world on the first day of 1000 CE. There were rioting. People were getting killed in the streets of Rome. Did it happen? Nope. John of Toledo predicted the end of the world on 1186 CE based on the alignment of the planets. Did that happen? Nope. Pope Innocent III predicted the end of the world in 1284 CE, 666 years after the rise of Islam. Did that happen? Nope. I think we're seeing a pattern here.
Yeah, there's definitely a pattern, yeah.
Martin Luther predicted the end of the world no later than 1600. Did that happen? Nope. Cotton Mather, who we might remember from our history books now that we're getting into a more modern age, predicted the end of the world in 1697, 1716, and 1736. They all failed. Herbert W. Armstrong, who we kind of remember as a religious crazy, predicted the end of the world in 1936, 1943, 1972, and 1973. They were all wrong. Your buddy Pat Robertson said the world was going to end in 1982. Did that happen? No. Camping himself got it wrong 5 fucking times. Come on! Why does anybody listen to this shit? Now here's some of the fun ones, the ones that are coming up. These are the good ones, okay? You want to know what's coming up first? You'll love this one.
Okay.
February 22nd, 2014, about 2 months from now. Fucking Ragnarok! Thor and Odin are coming out because it's fucking Ragnarok.
Yep, I heard that one.
John Hagee, who's one of these religious fuckers, says the world's going to end in 2014 or 2015. So in 2016, we'll laugh at his ass. Isaac Newton, going for an old one. He says the world's going to end in 2060. Think that's going to happen?
I think the pattern seems to point to no, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
This stuff just happens again and again and again, and I'm only picking out a couple of the future ones. There's another couple dozen of these things, and they're all going to fail.
There was the Hale Bopp. We actually talked about it last weekend on the Irreverent Skeptics. Hale Bopp was supposed to be this, not really predicted, but, it was this, there's the Heaven's Gate people was waiting for a comet with a spaceship trailing after it. When Art Bell, I don't think Art Bell does any real research. He has someone else. When Hale Bopp showed up and they started taking good, decent photos, it looked like there was a piece following it. Heaven's Gate people thought that's their spaceship, so that was their sign to get ready to, what do they do? Did they do the Kool-Aid thing or the?
They all put on tennis shoes and killed themselves. I don't know how.
Yeah, however they did it, but that was the sign. But, things like that, these so-called predictions, all these this failed stuff. Again, I wonder why people buy into it. I wonder why even the Bible even says you're not even supposed to really, don't question it. You'll never know. You don't know God's ultimate plan type, all that kind of stuff. So why even try to predict the end of the world? There are those nutcases who wants to expedite the return of Jesus, rebuild the temple on the mount. They're trying to get that, go to Israel and try to do all that kind of stuff to usher in, speed up Jesus. Like, I don't know, is he on a timetable or whatever? Speed up the timetable a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what the deal is there, but it's like, why? I would think, if the world's ending, there's not much you're going to be able to do about it. What are you going to do? Shake your fist at the meteor that's going to hit or what have you? I mean, what is there? What point is there to,
Well, because these people all think they're going to heaven. They want the end of the world so they can go to paradise.
Yeah.
They're all fucking stupid, but I don't know.
Right.
Now we're at the end of the damn show and I'm so damn depressed. I don't know what to do.
I don't know. I mean, I do feel sorry for the guy because, living a life like that, I mean, I can't fathom it. I can't fathom living a life where everything is like, and especially like in his world where he had to have been totally convinced that, May 21st was going to be the day, that everything was going to end. And, it's like, how do you live like that? How do you justify it? You've done everything, and then, of course, then after it doesn't happen, of course, he backtracks and he predicts that later date. But, because they are just so convinced that the world, they're right. I don't get why people, they're just so set on that they're right. And I've dealt with some guys, like collectors, people who are really into gun collecting or whatever. And I bought this, knife. It was a Navy, I forget what it was exactly, because it says right on there, it's like a NATO issue, it had all the numbers on it, survival knife pilot, I think it was Navy, even on top of it, Navy, or maybe it was Marines, whatever was on there. And, this guy was telling me, well, no, that's just, it's an Army survival knife. And I go, well, I showed him the photo of it and says, that's what it says on the label, that it's issued as. He goes, oh, I didn't know that. I mean, he was cool, but, it's like, but there's these guys that are just so convinced of, and I hate to say it, I've been, sometimes I'll watch Pawn Stars and you get these people come in, oh yeah, I've got this, this piece of paper that, there was a guy came in with a toilet seat from the space shuttle. And he was just so convinced it was worth a ton of money and all that kind of stuff. And, he wanted like $300 or $400 for it. And the expert comes in and says, well, this would normally have a titanium base to it. If it went on the shuttle, this would have had a titanium base attached to it and so on. So, no, this has never left the ground. You could probably buy these for, $20 at the hardware store if you really, or at the, right from the, the manufacturer. And that's about all it. But this guy was just so convinced it was worth more than that. It's for the space shuttle. It's like, dude, get a clue, it's a piece of foam formed to a person's butt, so they can take a dump on the space shuttle.
Yeah.
You can put it on your regular toilet and get the same effect out of it,
Yeah, what I always love about Pawn Stars, and I really hate that show. I mean, there's some interesting historical pieces that come up, but just about everybody who walks in that door expects them to pay retail prices. And it's like, dude, you're an idiot. This is not an end user. This is a retail store that has to mark it up to sell it to somebody else. That's how business works. And these people just don't understand that. It's like, oh, look, I want $15,000. I don't care if you can only sell it for $12,000.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then the people who get mad at him who say, oh, I bet you I could get more selling it to a collector. Well, then why the fuck don't you go sell it to a collector? You're in a pawn shop. Go sell it to a collector. This is not the place for that. God, people are so damn stupid.
But just this conviction that this piece of paper is, worth a fortune, or this is whatever, only to find out. And when they find out, well, no, it wasn't signed by him. It was an auto pen or the secretary signs it and all this kind of stuff. So it's only worth about a quarter of what you believed. But they're just so convinced, well, this is, it's just such a rare piece, that it should be worth, No, it don't work that way, guys. And get real. What you believe may may not necessarily be true, that, but they're just so convinced. So with guys like, Camping, Hagee, Robertson, they're just so convinced that they're right, that the end of the world is happening on this day, or this day. It's just so sad to think that you don't have even, that you can't think. You're not allowed to think. You're not allowed to question it. That whole thing. That's what I really hated about. It's one of my pet peeves when people they're just so convinced they're right. Someone's convinced that 2 + 2 is 5. And you say, well, no, 2 + 2 is 4. No, it's 5. 2 + 2 is 4. No, it's 5. Even though you can prove it and you can go through all the, whatever you gotta do to, mathematically prove that 2 + 2 is 4, and they just won't believe it. I mean, I just can't believe, it's just one of those things that it just blows my mind. How can you be so locked into that? I mean, this is not 1984 where, the state tells you 2 + 2 is 5. This is the real world. 2 + 2 is 4.
Yeah, but these people don't live in the real world. That's the problem. These people live in this absurd fantasy world where they've got these, feel-good religious beliefs, and they don't give a crap what's actually true. They just want something to make them feel good. That's pretty much sums up everything we've talked about today. It's all a bunch of people who just don't give a shit about reality.
That, or their reality is more valid than everyone else, the real reality.
Sorry, there is only one reality, alright?
Yeah.
If they are not in tune with the real reality that actually exists, then they're living in a fucking fantasy world, and the fuck with them, because I don't know what else to say.
I can't think of anything else. I mean, it's been a while, but I dig, I've read few science fiction books, and it's kind of neat to get lost in that world. But you come out, or like when you're playing a video game, you go into that world. I'm into Battlefield 2, 3. You go into that battlefield world and you're doing your thing. But at a point, you got to come out and say, okay, well now I got to go to work and earn a few bucks, and I got a podcast to do today, and I got one to do tomorrow, and I'm doing this, and I got to go to the store. It's like, there's a fantasy world and there's a reality world.
Yeah, but these people never come out of the fantasy world. These people are going, I don't have to go to work because God will provide. Well, fuck you. He doesn't provide. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was getting at is, you got it. There's a real world. There's a fantasy world. If you want to stay in your fantasy world, starve, whatever the fantasy world tells you. I'm going to live in a real world. I mean, I think the real world is a lot more interesting than a fantasy world, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I'm tired of people living in a fantasy world. I did it for a while, but I was never that fanatical about it. I mean, I believe some of the stupid crap that these people believe, but I at least understood that I gotta get an education, I gotta get a job, I gotta actually do something so that I can eat, and all this other stuff, and I actually have to live around real people who have real problems that have to be solved, and you can't solve those problems by praying to an imaginary man in the sky.
Right. Oh, exactly.
These people don't get that.
That, and it even goes to a point where they want to push that off on others. I mean, it's like, when we start talking about, like in their first story, the Ken Hovens who want you to believe that, we evolved from bananas, and, believing that's wrong, that God created everything, and wanting to teach kids that as being fact. And these people don't believe in knowledge. They don't believe in, we've talked about reality, but even just basic knowledge, give them something to think about, give them, whatever, keep them dumb. And that's what they want. I mean, they want dumb people because then they don't question. They don't want to look at the world beyond the Bible, that type of thing. So, I don't know. It's like, to me, it's really sad, a sad world to be in. I mean, maybe for those in it, it may seem okay, but, to me, it seems like, you're missing out. You're missing out on some of the cool things about this planet. I know I've talked about it before. I'm really into how life, and I love my backyard because I get all these neat creatures running around, deer and groundhogs, squirrels, all the I've seen possum, skunk, raccoons, just walking around. In some cases, I'll see insects I've never seen before. I mean, everything is different. Everything's new every day. And, it's just so cool how everything works. Everything works together. How everything interreacts, how, the plant, whatever. But, I'm kind of going off on tangents here, but, just how this world works and how amazing, because it is random. It was totally out of, I don't know if it was the stroke of luck that the right amino acids and the right proteins came together and all that kind of stuff. I know there's other theories, but it would still require at some point all this stuff coming together to create these single cell creatures that eventually over time through genetic mutation, through all the different, mechanisms end up being me and you and dogs, cats, birds, all that kind of stuff. That's just fascinating. And that seems to be more exciting to me than the fact that there's a God that just puffed it all into existence. That it seems to cheapen what is the reality.
Yeah, but these people aren't at all interested in the reality. The reality is uncomfortable. And like I always say, the most comfortable lie in the world is still a lie, and the most uncomfortable truth is still the truth. And I'm more interested in truth than I am in being comfortable.
Right.
Well, I think we've kind of beat everything to death enough this week.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed yourself, and we'll tell your friends about us. For anyone who listens using Stitcher Radio or iTunes, you can do something else, though. You can give us a good rating, and that'll help people find us easier. Please interact with the show. We're on Facebook, Google+, Twitter, and of course on our very own website where you can find links to all the stories we did today. And then you too can be just as depressed as we are. Next week is our Christmas show. We hope people can find some time in their busy holiday schedules to tune in. Happy holidays to all, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
You've been listening to the Bitchspot Report podcast with your hosts, Cephas and Mike. You can follow us on Twitter respectively at Bitchspot1 or at JDRipper1962. Please visit our website at report.jdragononline.com. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/TheBspotReport. We're also on Google+, iTunes, and YouTube. Those links are at our website. We'd love to hear from you. You can reach us via email at report@jdragononline.com. Comments, ideas, and suggestions are always welcome. We'll be back next week.